Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Sportsbook Confidential. My name is John Sullivan. I'm live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York. And this little show here is to help you learn and grow as a sports bettor. So, got another Friday edition, and we got a lot of weekend games. But as we always do, we're going to start by updating our bankroll. And as we take a look at last week, we are on a hot streak. Another winning week, upward direction. We started last week with a bankroll of $661 and a bet size of 22. And we had the Capitals minus 1.5 goals on Friday. That paid plus $38. And then Oklahoma under in the Big 12 championship, and that was a winner and paid $20. We had Pitt plus 27.5. They just didn't get there. I don't think they scored any points in the second half, and they just missed on that one. Minus 22. Buffalo Bills over. That also missed by a couple of points, and that was minus 22. And then we had the Titans Jets over, and that was plus a winner, plus $21. So 3-2 week, and the new bankroll, if you do the math there, is $696. And that means our new bet size, as we divide by 30, going into this week, will be $23. So very exciting that we're going in the right direction. Hopefully we'll get above water here shortly from where we started. And today for our sportsbook lesson, I'm going to talk briefly about the difference between betting and gambling. And I actually stole this idea from an old video series I did on YouTube. But we talked last time about what a professional bettor is. And I'm going to start by talking about what a professional gambler is. And they're different. They're very different. Professional gambler is someone who plays a game of chance with an advantage. And as you go into a casino like Del Lago, which is right down the street here, you'll see lots of games of chance. You'll see lots of slot machines. You'll see lots of table games like craps and roulette and blackjack and so forth. Poker is a game of skill. I would not consider that to be a game of chance. It has a chance element, of course. But examples of professional gamblers taking advantage of a game of chance is, the first one is free slot play. You know, if you go to Del Lago on your birthday, you get free slot play. You're not paying anything for a chance to win money, and that's an advantage play. Another one is card counting at blackjack. Card counting is not illegal, but if you're very good at blackjack, you may be asked to leave. But card counters that are very good at their craft usually have an advantage over the table because they only play where they know they will have said advantage. So when you talk about sports betting in the past, we've talked about being selective, making informed decisions. And sports bettors should avoid becoming gamblers. And it is possible for a sports bettor to become a gambler, and I'm going to talk about that right now. Avoiding gambling on sports. It is possible for a bettor to become a gambler if you don't practice good bankroll management. And you know how much I preach using good bankroll management, not betting beyond your means, not betting beyond your bankroll. If you risk too much bankroll on one wager, you essentially are gambling. And what I mean by that is there's no one game, no one wager that's a sure thing. Never, ever, ever. You might hear some people in sports betting media say, bet the farm, lock of the week, blah, blah, blah. Not appropriate. Not something you want in your lexicon. There's always another game, another day, another chance to place a good, selective, informed wager. You don't need to play catch-up. You don't need to chase losses. You don't need to risk more because you lost your last bet. You just adjust your bankroll and move on. And, there's no reason to risk that large amount of money, no matter how attractive the bet is. There's lots and lots. You just recently, people said Alabama or other teams that would maybe go undefeated, the Chiefs, going to play the money line on the Chiefs every week, and they lost. Going to play the money line on the Rams or the Saints every week. They lose. NFL's a parity league. Very rarely do teams go undefeated. It's only happened a couple of times and only once all the way through the Super Bowl. So you make good decisions on choosing your wagers, and you practice good bankroll management, and you will avoid becoming a gambler, and you will be a smart, experienced sports bettor. And that's pretty much it for today's lesson. It kind of ties back to some of our other concepts of being selective and being a good manager of your money. And I think those lessons apply to more than just sports betting myself. So let's go on to the week in the weekend in sports. And I'm going to start like I do with Friday night NHL. And NHL's been pretty good to us lately on Fridays. We got 4 games on the schedule. We got the San Jose Sharks -120 at the Stars, +110. The Sharks are a team that I think in the betting market has been overvalued. They have a lot of skill, and they just got one of their good players back, and Timo Meier. That game is probably appropriately lined, I guess, based on public perception of the quality of these teams. But if a team is rested and at home, you like them to get. It seems like the Stars are a little undervalued here. They're still missing some of their key components on the defensive side. Martin Jones has improved, but neither one of these teams has shut down goaltending, in my opinion. I think I'm going to pass on that one. The next game is the Blues at the Winnipeg Jets. St. Louis has been so inconsistent this year. They look so good sometimes, and they look so bad other times, and their goaltending has been pretty shaky overall. The Jets have not they have way more expectations than what they've really shown, but they've been really hot lately. Line A has been scoring tons of goals for them. I like the Jets here. Don't like laying -185, so that's probably a pass for me. The Wild at the Oilers. The Wild have been playing a tough stretch of games, and I don't think they've really played that bad. I just feel like for the most part they've been playing quality opponents. The Oilers have improved since they hired Kent Hitchcock, but they've become less of an explosive team, in my opinion. It seems like they only play the far wagon hockey if they get behind, and then they have to take chances on the offensive end, which creates more end-to-end play. Do like their goaltending. I feel like that game is appropriately lined. I don't. It's hard for me to take the Oilers -1.5 here because of Ken Hitchcock's defensive style of play. And then the Hurricanes at the Ducks, and the Ducks are like the least talked about first place team ever. They do have a couple injuries on the defensive end and Corey Perry, of course, is out, but he's out for an extended period. But Cam Fowler and Vazden, I believe, are out for 2 of their top defenders. But as I've said before, the Ducks have probably the best goaltending tandem in the league with Gibson and Miller. Hurricanes are playing, like an extended road trip. They were in L.A., San Jose. Now they're back in Anaheim, and they were in Arizona, and they've played 4 games in the last week. And they're, fatigue could set in there. I really like the Ducks in this spot. They've got young players that are really thriving in that system, and that's probably the game I like tonight. We'll see at the end of the show what I end up with. So. Short night in the NHL, but there's some interesting games there, and I'll probably watch the Ducks game. Moving on to college football, and as Week 15 always does, there's really only one game, and that is the Army-Navy game that ends the college football regular season. And you've got the 9-2 Army team versus the 3-8 or 3-9 Navy team, and as they say, throw out the records. This is their bowl game. This is their national spotlight. They play this game every year at a neutral site. It's usually Philadelphia. And there is a tremendous trend with this game going under over the years. That's not something I really even consider myself when placing the wager, but the fact that people bet on these trends does drive it has driven the total down in this game. Reviewing the season for both of these two teams, I did this morning before looking at this game, and even though Navy has had a very poor year, they've played some very competitive games, and Army has had some blowout wins, but they've also had very close games, and if you the variance within the games could generate a couple of wins versus a couple of losses for either team. So I feel like the play here is Navy plus the points. I feel like that they will come up with a game plan to keep this close, if nothing else. So don't anticipate having unusually bad weather. That can also be a factor. But if that is, you kind of like taking the points here if both teams have trouble scoring. So we'll see what happens. But Navy seems to be the play in that game, and I'll probably check it out a little bit. A lot of people like to wager on that game. So let's move on to the NFL. And this week we have some interesting matchups. We have the Jets and the Bills in an AFC East matchup. And we have the Bills at minus 3.5. And we have a total of 38.5. And you've got Sam Darnold starting for the Jets and Josh Allen for the Bills. You've got one coach that's playing for his job and another coach that is really bad at challenges. So Todd Bowles is not getting along with the GM, and the Jets are in disarray, and he may be out at the end of the year. The Bills seem to be – they were very competitive in Miami last week, and Charles Clay dropped that surefire touchdown pass. It was a little underthrown, as some people said, but you got to like the Bills' competitive spirit here. They seem to be a team that's gelling a little too late in the year, where the Jets, on the other hand, are a team that is just looking for a reason to show up. I do like the Bills at home. It should be a cold game. I don't expect it to be snowy. But I think I'm going to stay away from the total there. There's no reason for either team to run up the score. So Bills appropriately lined as the favorite. Moving on to the other New York team, the football Giants are at the Washington Indigenous People team. And the Giants are 3.5-point favorites. Maybe Odell Beckham will play quarterback this week after throwing a touchdown pass last week. The Skins' season just fell apart after starting 6-3. They their first two quarterbacks, their top two quarterbacks, both broke their leg. They're a mess. It's really tough for you to expect much out of Mark Sanchez with the Redskins. So I do like the Giants here. I don't like the total at all. I don't know what to expect. The Redskins with a decent quarterback could put up 20, 21 points every week. But with Mark Sanchez in the fold, I don't know. He didn't complete a pass much longer than 10 yards last week when he came in the game. I'm not sure he knew much of the playbook anyway. But that game should be very competitive for the Giants. Should be, and I think Eli feels like he has something to prove if he wants to stay and play another year. He's got to take care of business here. If he has trouble, that could be spelling near the end for him. I'm not sure what his contract status is at, but the Skins are not mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, but you don't really like their chances here. So that game is kind of a throwaway game for me. Here's a game that's really exciting to me, and that's the Rams at the Bears. Trubisky is expected to play this week, so the Bears get their exciting quarterback back. They're 3-point underdogs and a 51.5 total. Not sure what the weather's going to be like here. I didn't do the forecast, but I do really like the Rams. I feel like the Rams' defense has started to surge. They started out great this season, then they had like a 3 or 4 game lull, and I think they have figured out some new, new strategies to pressure quarterbacks. And it'll be interesting to see how Trubisky deals with that. The Rams have all their weapons. The only player they're really missing is Cooper Kupp, and they have enough depth at wide receiver to overcome that. So this is interesting. You've got two, offensive-minded, I want to call new age coaches that are not the traditional NFL coaches of the last 20 years or so. So a very interesting game. It could easily go over. I like the Rams here. I just feel like the Bears, and the Bears really need one win to really kind of cement that division title. And I don't think they're going to get it this week, but they might hear footsteps before too long. All the other teams in the division have been failing along with them, so they really haven't lost any ground. And then moving on to a game that was probably a throwaway game for most people, but I really like this line, is the Lions at the Cardinals. Cardinals 3-point dogs at home, and the over-under of 40.5. And you've got Byron Leftwich as the new OC in Arizona. And I feel like Josh Rosen has really thrived with that coaching change. And this team, David Johnson, starting to be used, like a feature back should. And this team is generating more offense. And the Lions have a decent offense. They may not have much of a will to play out the string, but I feel like 40.5 is very doable over here. So it's one of the reasons I put it on my list today. I feel like that's a really strong play. Perfect weather conditions. Both of these teams play indoors, so not an issue there. So, and then, neither team is in the playoff picture, so they can kind of open the playbooks and, have a little fun with it. And that usually means, more plays, more big plays, more chunk plays, that kind of thing, and that helps the over. And then on Sunday afternoon, later, the second half of games is Eagles at Cowboys. This game is the most impactful in the playoffs, and the Eagles took care of the Skins last week, and now they're off to Dallas to face the Cowboys. And the Cowboys' offense has improved, and their defense hasn't. The Cowboys, Sean Lee's been in and out all year, and they've struggled in the secondary. And Cowboys 3.5-point favorites. I don't know if it goes to 4. I kind of like the Eagles here. Eagles need this game. This is essentially a playoff game for them. So you have to think that they're going to pull out all the stops. If they get behind, extend the game as much as possible. And that means more points for both teams probably. So I do like the over here. But, the Eagles are a team that if they just put it together, they just haven't been consistent. They've been inconsistent all year. And who knows what Peterson, the coach for the Eagles, will have. Maybe he'll bring out some new wrinkles. And he's got nothing to lose at this point. It's do or die time for the Eagles. So I do like the Eagles at the right number, and I do like the over, especially if this dropped a little bit. I would really like the over. That's the most important game of the week, and I'll definitely have my eye on that one. So now, before we get to my picks, I got a new wrinkle that I want to talk about. And we now have a caller line for the Sportsbook Confidential podcast. So I'm very excited that all of you viewers and listeners can call our show with your questions, your comments, or your feedback. So our phone number is 866-315-FLX1, and that is also 866-315-3591. And then when you call into, that's the call-in line to our studios, and you're going to ask for extension, or you're going to punch in extension 810 for our show. There's a different extension for each show here in the studio. So extension 810 is Sportsbook Confidential, and you'll be asked to leave your name and where you're calling from and record your message. And hopefully we'll be able to play your calls back on the show. So be aware that if you do leave a message that we may play it on the air. So if you don't feel comfortable doing that, we'll find another way to get in touch with you, I guess. But very excited that you can call in if you see something on the show you have a question about, or you just have general questions about betting in general, or any upcoming games, or how to approach sizing your bankroll, or making a wager, or how to place a bet at a sports book, things like that. Any other things that you want to point out, good or bad, and we'll be happy to take your call, and hopefully I'm hoping that we get enough response that we can do, if not a regular segment, but a whole show just on feedback and calls and all of that. So one other surprise, next week we're going to try to have a live co-host. He will not be in the studio. He'll be remote, but my friend Brian will join us, and hoping that if it works out, it'll become a regular thing. So you won't just see me next week, and hopefully that will make the show run a little smoother and more interesting. So let's wrap it up. We're going to go to my picks for the week. And on Friday night, as I said before, the Ducks are a very undervalued team in the betting market. They have tremendous goaltending, and I like them facing a tired Hurricanes team. I'm going to take Navy plus the points on Saturday. That's the team that has the most to play for. The Army's got a bowl bid locked up. There's no real surprise there, so I feel like this game will be close. I'm going to take the Rams -3 at plus 107, very juicy odds there. And I feel like that team is just too good. I mean, in my eyes, they're the Super Bowl favorite. I know a lot of people like the Saints. Saints don't play that well on the road. They have this year, but overall they don't usually. But really like the Rams. The Lions and the Cardinals over 40.5. That is a play I really like this week. It's probably my strongest play. Those teams should score enough touchdowns to get over there. And then the Eagles and the Cowboys over 44. I feel like this game will be higher scoring because of the implications in the do-or-die scenario for the Eagles. So those are my plays this week. We got a shorter show today, only 25 minutes, but next week will probably be longer. So if you want to stick around and check all that out, we'll be happy to see you next time. So I'm going to play the outro music, and thanks for tuning in, and let's get some winners. Take care, everybody.